I should have never gone to that party. It was a Friday night, and my roommate Kyle had been bugging me all week to go with him to some huge off-campus party. I wasn't much of a party guy, but he kept saying it was at this massive house out in the woods where the upperclassmen threw crazy raegers. It's called the Hollow, he said. It's legendary, bro. They only throw like 1 or 2 parties a year. That should have been my first red flag. But I was new, a freshman. I wanted to make friends, have stories to tell later. So I said yes. We drove out in Kyle's car, following some winding back roads until we reached a dirt path lined with trees. A long line of cars stretched down the road, their headlights cutting through the dark. People were already walking ahead, disappearing into the woods where distant music thumped. The house was huge, 3 stories tall, almost like a mansion, but old. The paint was peeling, and some of the windows were boarded up. "This place looks abandoned," I muttered. Kyle just grinned. "Yeah, man, that's what makes it sick." We went inside, and at first, it was like any other college party. Loud music, sweaty bodies, cheap beer. I started loosening up. It was actually kind of fun. Then, I started noticing weird things. There were no mirrors in the house. Not in the bathrooms, not in the hallways. Every place you'd expect a mirror, there was either an empty frame or a completely blank wall. And the upstairs? Completely off limits. A guy who looked like a senior stood by the staircase, waving people away. "Don't go up there," he said, laughing but serious. House rules. I made a mental note of it, but I didn't care. Not until Kyle disappeared. 1 minute, he was next to me, taking shots with some girl. The next, he was just gone. I checked the kitchen, the backyard, even texted him. No answer. Then I saw it. The staircase. I thought about what the guy said, but Kyle was an idiot when he was drunk. If anyone was dumb enough to go where they weren't supposed to, it was him. So I did what any friend would do. I went up. The second I hit the top step, I knew something was wrong. It was silent. The music from downstairs seemed distant, muffled, like I had stepped into an entirely different building. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. The lights were dimmer, flickering slightly. And at the very end of the hall, a door, slightly open. I took a deep breath and walked forward, my heart pounding. The door creaked as I pushed it open, and Kyle was inside, standing in front of a mirror, one of the only mirrors in the entire house. His reflection wasn't right. It wasn't following his movements. It was lagging behind, like it was watching, waiting. Then Kyle spoke, except his reflection didn't. "What are you doing up here?" he asked. His voice was flat. "Wrong." I took a step back. "Dude, we need to go." Kyle smiled. His reflection didn't. Then, the reflection tilted its head, like it was acknowledging me, like it was aware. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I reached the front door, shoving my way through the crowd. I needed to leave. Now. Then, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, and there was Kyle, smiling, acting normal. But something in my gut told me it wasn't him. Kyle was smiling, acting like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just been upstairs staring at a mirror that shouldn't have existed. "There you are, dude." He clapped a hand on my shoulder, laughing like he hadn't just been somewhere else entirely. I swallowed hard. Where did you go?" Kyle raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? I've been looking for you. You just disappeared." I opened my mouth to argue, but my gut twisted. Something was wrong. His voice was too calm, too rehearsed. I forced a laugh, trying to act casual. "Yeah, must have lost each other in the crowd." Kyle just nodded. "Come on, man, let's get out of here." That was the first sign. Kyle had been hyped about this party all week. He wanted to stay until sunrise. But now, all of a sudden, he was ready to go. We got to the car, and he tossed me the keys. "You drive." That was the second sign. Kyle never let me drive his car. The entire ride back to campus, I kept glancing at him out of the corner of my eye. He was too still, too quiet. Kyle was always messing with the radio, tapping on the dashboard, talking nonstop. But now, he just stared out the window, like he was trying to remember how to act normal. By the time we got back to our dorm, my hands were slick with sweat. I kept telling myself I was overreacting, that I had just been drunk, seeing things, freaking myself out. Then, at 3:12 a.m., I woke up. Kyle was sitting up in bed, just staring at the mirror. I held my breath, heart hammering. I watched as he lifted his hand, and the mirror lifted its hand a second later. A second too late. I froze. Kyle wasn't controlling the reflection. It was controlling him. My body screamed at me to run, to get the hell out of there. But I couldn't move. I just lay there, barely breathing, watching. Then, Kyle turned his head without moving his body and looked directly at me. His voice was wrong when he spoke. "You weren't supposed to see that." I lost it. I jumped out of bed, grabbing my phone, fumbling for the door handle. But Kyle moved too fast. He was suddenly right behind me. His breath was too even, too controlled. "You should sleep," he said. "We have class tomorrow." Like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't just watched me watching him. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat awake, phone clutched in my hands, waiting. The next day, I went to the student housing office and demanded a room change. They said they'd process my request, but I'd have to wait a few weeks. I didn't have a few weeks. That night, I locked my bedroom door. Then, at exactly 3:12 a.m., I woke up again, to the sound of Kyle laughing. Not normal laughter. It was low, strained. Like he was trying to match the sound of human laughter, but couldn't quite get it right. I pressed my ear against the door, hard in my throat. And then I heard him whisper to himself, or to something else. "I think he knows." I called my parents first thing in the morning and begged them to let me move off campus. I never went back to that dorm. I never saw Kyle again. But sometimes, late at night, I still wake up at 3:12 a.m. And I swear, when I look into the mirror, there's something standing behind me. Story 2. The first time I saw the third door, I thought I was imagining things. My dorm was pretty standard: 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 closets, and a single bathroom with a door on the far wall. I had been living there for almost a month, and everything had been normal. Until that night. I woke up around 2:45 a.m., groggy and disoriented, my throat achingly dry. I reached for my water bottle, but it was empty. With a sigh, I forced myself out of bed and stumbled toward the bathroom to fill it up. And that's when I saw it. There was a second bathroom door, right next to the original one. My breath hitched. That wasn't there before. I stood there for a long moment, heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. Maybe my tired brain was playing tricks on me. Maybe it had always been there, and I had just never noticed. But no, I had lived in this room for weeks. There was only supposed to be one door. I turned on the bathroom light, trying to wake myself up, and cautiously approached the new door. It looked just like the real one. Same color, same handle, except something was off. It wasn't fully closed. A sliver of pitch-black darkness peeked from the crack between the door and the frame. Something about that darkness felt wrong. Not like a normal darkroom. Like a hole. Like if I opened the door, I wouldn't see a bathroom. I'd see nothing. My hand hovered over the handle, fingers twitching. I wanted to open it. I needed to know. Then, a sound. From the other side. Knuckles rapping against wood. Knock. 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 I jumped back so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. No. 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 I stumbled to the light switch and flipped it off. And just like that, the door was gone. I stood there, my body trembling, staring at the empty wall where the door had been just seconds before. My mind raced. Had I imagined it? Had I been half-dreaming? I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. And the next morning, I almost convinced myself it had just been a hallucination, a weird trick of exhaustion, until I went to take a shower and saw something written on the bathroom mirror. Not in steam, not in marker, scratched into the glass. "Let me in." I staggered backward, my breath caught in my throat. The words, "Let me in," were scratched into the bathroom mirror. Not written in steam, not drawn, carved. I ran my fingers over the letters, feeling the rough edges where the glass had been gouged. This wasn't some prank. Something had done this. A sickening thought crept into my mind. Had it been there before? Had I just never noticed? No, I would have seen it. I turned and stared at the wall. The place where the third door had appeared last night. It was still gone, like it had never been there at all. I told myself I was just imagining things. Lack of sleep. Stress. Maybe I had scratched the mirror myself in some half-asleep haze. I tried to go about my day normally. Classes. Lunch with a friend. Study session in the library. But the feeling never left me. The feeling that something was waiting. That night, I was terrified to go back to my dorm. But I told myself that if I ignored it, if I just didn't acknowledge anything weird, it would go away. I locked my bedroom door. I pulled my blankets over my head. I forced myself to sleep. And then, at 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of a door creaking open. I froze. Not my bedroom door. Not the bathroom door. The third door. I knew it was there, even before I turned my head. The air felt wrong, heavy, thick, like the entire room was pressing down on me. But I couldn't stop myself. I looked, and the door was there again, wide open, revealing nothing but pitch-black emptiness. It was too dark, too deep, not like a normal dark room, but like a hole in reality itself. And then, something moved inside it. A hand, pale, thin fingers curled around the edge of the doorframe, slowly pulling itself forward. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The hand tightened its grip. More of it began to emerge. A shoulder. A head. I couldn't see a face. Just an outline, something tall and wrong and shifting, like it wasn't used to being in this world. Then, it whispered, "You let me in." I bolted. I lunged for the light switch and slammed it on. And just like that, the door was gone. The thing was gone. But the bathroom mirror was different. There was something new carved into the glass. A single word. "Thank you." I left my dorm that night and never came back. I switched rooms. Told the housing office it was an emergency transfer. They didn't ask questions. But sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night. And I swear, I hear a door creaking open. Even when there's no door there at all. Story 3. I wasn't supposed to have a dorm room to myself. At my college, all freshmen were assigned roommates, no exceptions. But when I got to campus, I was told my assigned roommate had dropped out last minute. "Lucky you," the RA said, handing me the key. Single room, no extra charge. At first, I was thrilled. More space, more privacy, no awkward small talk with a stranger. But now, I wish I had never stepped foot in that room. The first night, everything seemed normal. I unpacked, set up my laptop, scrolled through social media until I got tired. Then I turned off the lights and went to sleep. And that's when I heard it. A quiet rustling from the other side of the room. Like sheets shifting. Like someone moving in bed. I sat up instantly. My eyes darted across the dark room. The other bed was empty. I was alone. I told myself it was just the building settling, or maybe the sound had come from the hallway. But the next night, it happened again. And the night after that. Every night, around 3 a.m., I would wake up to the sound of movement. Not just rustling. Breathing. Soft. Steady. Like someone was lying in bed across from me. And then, after exactly 5 minutes, the sound would stop. Like whoever, or whatever, was there didn't want to be caught. I stopped sleeping. I stayed up late, keeping my laptop open, pretending to work just so I wouldn't have to turn off the light. But then, one night, I decided to test something. I set up my phone and started recording. I placed it on my nightstand, camera angled at the empty bed. If something was moving in the room, I'd see it. I went to sleep with the lights off, pretending like everything was normal. I woke up at 3:04 a.m. to complete silence. For the first time in weeks, I didn't hear anything. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and hit play. The video started. For the first 3 minutes, nothing. Just me, asleep in bed, my breathing slow and even. The empty bed was still. The room was silent. Then, at exactly 3:00 a.m., the blankets on the empty bed moved, like someone had just sat up. I stopped breathing. The blanket slid down slightly, pressed down by something invisible. Then, the mattress sank, as if someone had stood up. I wanted to stop the video, but I couldn't. I had to see. At 3:02 a.m., the closet door, which had been closed all night, creaked open. A dark gap appeared between the door and the frame. Something shifted inside. And then, from the darkness, a hand slid out. Pale, thin fingers gripping the door frame, like it was waiting, watching. Then, at 3:05 a.m., the hand slowly pulled back inside. The closet door closed on its own, and the blankets on the bed flattened, like whoever had been sitting there was gone. I dropped my phone. I couldn't breathe, because I finally understood. The room was never meant to be mine alone, and whoever had been assigned to it before me never really left. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. The video was still playing, the screen glowing in the darkness, but I couldn't look at it anymore. I had seen enough. The hand, the closet door opening on its own, the invisible weight pressing into the empty bed. I wasn't alone in that room. Something had been there since the first night, and I had been sleeping right next to it. I forced myself to breathe, gripping my blanket with shaking hands. My body screamed at me to run, to get out of the room and never come back. But I knew. It was watching me. I could feel it. Somewhere in the dark, something was waiting to see what I would do next. I turned my phone camera toward the closet. The door was shut, but I knew if I opened it, I wouldn't be alone. My eyes flicked back to the other bed. The blankets lay still, untouched. But the mattress looked wrong. The weight of something invisible still lingered there. Like someone was lying down, pretending to sleep. I had to get out. I threw off my blankets and bolted for the door. My fingers fumbled with the lock, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Behind me, the closet creaked again. I didn't turn around. I yanked the door open and ran straight down the hall. I didn't stop until I reached the RA's room. I banged on the door so hard I thought I'd break it. When he finally answered, rubbing his eyes groggily, I practically shoved past him. "You need to switch my room," I gasped. "Right now. Please." He blinked at me. "Dude, it's the middle of the night." "I don't care," I snapped. "Something is wrong with that room." The RA sighed and rubbed his face. Okay, chill. What happened?" I hesitated. What was I supposed to say? That I had video proof that something invisible was living with me? That I was afraid to go back? I just shook my head. "I can't sleep there. Please. I'll sleep in the hallway if I have to." The RA sighed. "All right. I think there's a spare room down the hall." I grabbed my phone and nodded frantically. The RA glanced toward my dorm room. "Dude, if this is about the closet thing, you know it's just a dumb rumor, right?" My stomach dropped. "What rumor?" I whispered. He gave me a weird look. "You don't know." I just stared at him. He shrugged. "The guy who lived there before you? He never moved out." A slow chill spread through my chest. "What do you mean?" The RA hesitated. "He went missing last year. No one ever figured out what happened to him. The school didn't want to freak people out, so they just cleared out his stuff and reassigned the room." I felt sick. "You're lying," I whispered. He just shook his head. I turned and looked down the hallway. My dorm door was still open, the inside dark, too quiet. And then, from inside the room, I heard the sound of a bed creaking, like someone was getting up. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I was as far away as possible. I transferred rooms the next day. Never went back to that hallway. Never told anyone about the video. But sometimes, when I'm up late at night, scrolling through my phone, my camera app randomly opens, and for a split second, I see a picture of my old dorm room, and the closet door is open,